Okay, good morning class. Welcome to Tata classes and this is class 11, Maths and C combined, Maths and Commerce group combined, and we are taking up a topic in English from Hornbill, a poetry titled Childhood. Before I begin the discussion of the poetry, I want to have a little feedback from all of you, like what thoughts come to your mind when you think of childhood, when the word childhood is uh, when you hear the word childhood, what thoughts come to your mind? Yes, Hanshika, what thoughts come to your mind when you hear the word childhood? Yes, Hanshika.
Freedom of thoughts,
Freedom of
innocence.
thought. Okay, good. Innocence. Very good. Okay, Jyotsna, how would you define childhood?
So childhood is the stage in which you can do any mistake and nobody is going to uh, tell you.
Yeah, in childhood you are not prohibited and scolded as much. Like when you are very small, I know, but you do get scoldings, and you are always reminded this is right and this is wrong, isn't it? Okay, anybody else would like to add something to childhood? The characteristics of childhood?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So
Yes, Nandini.
childhood is dependency on parents.
Okay, correct. What else? Okay, so that's right. We are dependent on parents and they tell us what to wear, what to eat, all the little things. And they guide us, isn't it? So that's how childhood is defined. Very right. And the important word that came little back, a minute back was innocence. Childhood is full of innocence. Now this poetry, Childhood, written by Marcus Nathan, talks about the transition of a person from childhood to a teenage and adult, and what changes does he go through.
The poem
So is the audio from the video I am sharing is audible to you?
Childhood is by Marcus Nathan. It is an exploration of the loss of childhood and innocence, written from the perspective of someone who is no longer a child. It outlines the changes in perspective that coincide with growing up and paints a picture of disillusionment caused by loss of faith and innocence at a young age. Here is a summary of the poem Childhood by Marcus Nathan. In the first stanza, the poet begins
The
by
summary.
wondering whether his childhood ended with his 12th birthday. He wonders if he ceased to be a child when he realized that heaven and hell were not places that could be found in a geography book or an atlas, and so could not be said to exist at all. In other words, he wonders if he outgrew his innocence when he began to use reason and logic developed through education. In the second stanza, the poet wonders whether his childhood faded away due to the realization that all the adults around him were hypocrites. He wonders if he possibly ceased to be a child when he realized that adults only spoke of love and preached love. In real life, they did not behave in a loving manner and could be violent or mean. In the third stanza, the poet considers the possibility that his childhood ended when he realized that he was an individual with an independent mind which he could use as he saw fit. He realized that he could have original thoughts and was not to be limited by what others wanted him to think. In the last stanza, the poet declares that his childhood is now gone. He concludes emphatically that his childhood is now in a place that only an infant can access. He is now too grown up to be as innocent as a baby. The only
Okay, you see that the poem talks about childhood and the loss of childhood and the changes that take place, psychological, emotional, and the physical changes are there. These are the biology. This is the process of growing up. But what the mental process, the thought process that changes in this process of growing up. So the poet has written the poetry. Let me read up the poetry here. Uh, okay, so here comes the poetry Childhood by Marcus Nathan. Okay, Josna, can you just read out the first stanza? Josna, are you there? Nandini?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can
So,
you read out the first stanza for us?
Okay, sir.
so when did my childhood go? Was it the day I
Yes, yes, continue. Yes, Nandini, continue.
Yes, sir. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be was that day? When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine to use whichever way I chose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people but my own and mine alone? Was that the day? Where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that is hidden in an infant face. That's all I know.
Okay, very good, very good. Now, see, you see, the poem is divided into three stanzas. Okay, and uh, so the poem is divided into three stanzas plus one that concludes the poem. Okay, now the first stanza and that change is rationalism. The second stanza talks about hypocrisy. The third stanza talks about individuality. Now, these three are the characteristics of the process of growing up. Okay, like going back to the poetry, The first stanza you see, it says, when did my childhood go? Was it the time I used to be 11? And the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be. So see here geography and 11. So the poet says that when he attained the age of 11 and he celebrated his 12th birthday, okay, and that was probably he stopped being a child and he started reading science books. His reasoning mind developed and he found that hell and heaven, which he was always told by the elders, his parents, always tell truth. If you tell lie, you will go to hell. So, but he found that these things don't exist in geography book. Okay, so his rational mind started working. So that the first stanza talks about rationalism. Now we see the second stanza again begin with the same phrase. When did my childhood go? Third will also begin with the same phrase. When did my childhood go? So see, all these stanzas begin with the same phrase. And okay, when you begin a sentence with the same phrase, it is called anaphora. ANAPHORA. So anaphora is very similar to like you had heard about refrain and alliteration and repetition. Okay, alliteration is a repetition of alphabet. She saw a seashell on the seashore. Okay, and repetition is a repetition of a word. Water, water everywhere. But anaphora is a repetition of a phrase in the beginning of sentences that you keep on saying, and the purpose is to stress, to put across your fact, to put across your thoughts, whatever you are trying to put across. And one of the famous, this anaphora is used by the political leaders in their speeches. Okay, one of the famous speech I would like to share with you was given by Martin Luther King, and the phrases are, I have a dream. Okay, so let me show you that video. I have a dream speech. It was given by Martin Luther King and talks about blacks by white. And he was trying to talk about an America where everybody is equal. Okay, let me bring that video up.
I am prepared to join you in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
So this was the famous speech where Martin Luther King stressed upon the fact, the dream he had of America.
That character. I have a dream today.
Yes, see these words.
With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
It was a very motivational speech given him, and he repeatedly said, I have a dream where white and children of white and black people will sit together as brothers. I have a dream. So he repeatedly used the words to put across his idea, what kind of America he wanted. So that is the poetic device which has been used in this poetry. When did my childhood go? When did my childhood go? Actually, the poet is trying to put stress on the fact that when exactly he lost his childhood. Okay, and he's full of regret. Okay, remorse, lamenting that the childhood is gone. Now, coming to the second stanza, was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love. Let's go to the video of Tata class and meaning of hypocrisy. Okay. Hypocrisy is like when you are saying something else and doing something else. Okay, like suppose we teach our children, don't tell lies. It is a bad habit. But I am myself telling lies, so that is hypocrisy. Okay, if you are a hypocrite when your actions and your words don't match, so that is a hypocrite, and that is what the poet says in the second stanza.
To be limited by what others child when he realized, written from the perspective of someone, an independent mind, which faded away due to the
See this picture. In this picture, there is a man who is taking some oath or giving some speech, and see his hand behind his back. The fingers are crossed. So when do people do this? When they are telling a lie, so they what they do, they put their finger like this behind their back, as if kind of like asking for pardon or something from God, like they believe in their heart that they are telling a lie. So that is a hypocrite. See, he's saying something else, but he doesn't mean it. His fingers are behind his back. So he's called a hypocrite. So that was a child observed. He sees his parents and see that they talk of love. They teach him about love. They teach him don't tell lies. But they themselves indulge in all these activities. So the child observes these things and he wonders what kind of people are they. And since child is like a blank paper, all these things get inked upon him, and he himself becomes a hypocrite. And then he realizes that I have lost my childhood. So that is the second feature, hypocrisy. A child also becomes a hypocrite, and he realizes that he has lost his childhood. Now let's see the third stanza. Again, when did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine? To use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not of other people, but mine own and mine own. So see the word, my thoughts, my mind, mine alone, individuality. So which feature we are talking about here now? Individuality. Okay, you become individual. You have your own identity, your own likes and dislikes, and you begin to express themselves. A child is small, he is dictated by his parents what to wear and what to eat, what is good for him. But as he grows up, he begins to express himself, his thoughts, his political views, his social views, his ideologies, what he wants to make as a career, what he wants to eat, what he wants to wear, a tattoo or a earring, anything from small thing to big thing. So that's the another thing, another feature that makes the child realize, makes the poet realize that he has lost his childhood.
Realization that all the adults around him were hypocrites. He wonders if he possibly ceased to be a child when he realized that adults only spoke of love and preached love. In real life, they did not behave in a loving manner and could be
Like see this picture, the man is some finger that obviously shows the man, he is kicking somebody. But that is backbiting. And in front of people we talk about them lovingly, acha you are a good person and that. But behind him, we behave differently. And that was also the theme in Browning version, how Taplow was talking about Crocker Harris behind him, calling him Croc. So this is what is hypocrisy.
violent or mean. In the third stanza, the poet considers the possibility that his childhood ended when he realized that he was an individual with an independent mind which he could use as he saw fit. He realized that he could have original thoughts and was not to be limited by what others wanted him to think. In the last stanza, the poet declares that his childhood is now gone. He concludes emphatically that his childhood is now.
Now coming to the last stanza, the poet again now wonders, where did my childhood go? My childhood is gone, that I am sure, but where did it go? So he says that it has gone to some forgotten place from where it cannot come back. But whenever he sees the face of a child, he sees his own childhood. It is said that every person has a child hidden uh, inside him. It just takes a moment or an occasion to come out. And it is usually with some children. When you are with children, you also become a child. So whenever the poet sees a face of an infant, he sees his own childhood. Right?
Place that only an infant can access. He is now too grown up to be as innocent as a baby. The only character in the poem is the poet who ponders over his lost childhood. The poet comes across as a self-aware and rational person.
Self-aware and rational, that is what is the first, what is happening. I'm going to a process of change, isn't it? And what is happening with me.
He is mindful of the fact that he has lost his innocence and that his thoughts have evolved over the years. His rational side is evident when he questions concepts like heaven and hell, whose existence he cannot perceive. The poet also seems to be cynical.
Cynical means what? Doubtful. When did my childhood go? And he is having a lot of doubts. When this exactly started. And he is trying to find answers. He is having doubt and he is answering themselves. Okay, that is cynical.
He points out that adults do not always practice what they preach about being loving and kind. His musings about heaven and hell can be seen as the result of this cynicism as well. The poet is a strong individual who prizes his ability to think independently.
Strong individual, third stanza, individuality. I like this, I don't like this.
As is evident from the manner he calls his mind my own and mine alone. Now let us examine the poem closely. The central theme of the poem is the loss of childhood.
So the central theme of the poetry is loss of childhood. And how is the poet feeling? Is he happy? No, he is full of lament, full of sorry. We also, whenever we see photographs of our childhood, isn't it? We become nostalgic. Those were the best days of my life. Some handouts. Okay, see. So here we have the summary of the poetry and the character. Who is the only character in the poem? The poet himself. And he's talking about his own childhood and the changes going through him, the self-awareness. And here we have the analysis, that is the theme, loss of childhood. That is the central theme of the poetry, the loss of childhood. The central theme is the loss of childhood. Now, the poem is divided into the stanzas, as we saw. One of the theme is rationalism. The theme of the first stanza. Then comes hypocrisy. Okay. So and the structure and the poetry device used in the poem is anaphora. Not working. So anaphora is a poetry device used by the poet when they or the people who give speech. They use the same phrase, as we saw in "I have a dream."
And the change of perspective that is involved. Childhood is presented as a time of innocence, where the child believes everything that he or she is told. It is also shown to be a phase of trust in adults, with the child expecting people to live by what they preach. However, when a child develops the ability to observe, reason, and think independently, he or she ceases to be trusting and tends to be skeptical of many things. While contemplating the end of childhood, the poet also touches upon rationalism, the hypocrisy of adults, and individuality. The first stanza describes the awakening of a rational mind when the poet refuses to believe in things that cannot be perceived. The poet views this as the beginning of the move away from childhood and towards adulthood. In the second stanza, the poet describes his realization that adults' actions don't always match their words. They only talk about love, but do not demonstrate love towards fellow human beings. In the third stanza, The poet expresses the
using
strength
your own
that he has gained from
mind,
realizing
expressing your
that he
thoughts,
was capable of independent
individuality.
thoughts. This realization helped him understand that his thoughts were unique. They were an expression of his individual identity, his own understanding of what it is like growing up in the world he lives in. The poem has a simple diction and structure. It is centered around a single question, and each stanza is the exploration. This repetition helps focus the
Say, this is anaphora. When did my childhood go? When did my childhood go? Repetition,
attention
anaphora.
of the reader to the central theme of the poem, and also read the was at the time I realized.
Okay, now here we have an extract. Uh, okay, Akansha. See, the extract is
Yes, sir.
given, and the question number one is, why does the poet wonder if his childhood ended when he turned 11? So, what do you think is the right answer? Why does the poet wonder if his childhood ended when he turned 12? Yes, Akanksha.
Sir, A.
A, that is when childhood officially. Okay.
So I guess B.
Sir, B.
Aditi.
B.
B, that is when he realized that there was no heaven or hell.
Hell.
Yeah, that is the right answer because he goes through geography, science books, and he comes to know that these things don't. These are all fictions created by his parents. So the childhood is a world of fantasy, a world full of fairy tale and Barbie dolls and all. But as you grow up, these things disappear. Okay, very good. Okay, now next question coming up.
Realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography, and therefore could not be. Was that the day? Why does the poet wonder if his childhood ended when he turned 12? Click the correct option and then click submit. What causes the poet to stop believing?
Okay, question number two. What caused the poet to stop believing in heaven and hell? Okay, Yashwardhan, will you like to attempt this question? What caused the poet to stop believing in heaven and hell?
Yes, sir. Sir, B.
He could not find evidence for their existence, right? When he went through the geography books, he might have come across the earth, crust, and mantle and core. And above atmosphere, you have stratosphere, exosphere, and all. So he couldn't find any evidence of heaven and hell. Okay, very good.
Believing in heaven and
Now
hell?
coming up next,
Why do you
question number three. Chitij, why do you think the poet mentions geography? In the first stanza, he talks about geography. So why do you think poet mentions geography? Yes, Yashwardhan
Sir,
or
D.
Jyotsna? Yes, Yashwardhan.
Sir, D.
Sir, D.
D. Yeah, he uses geography as a symbol of education. See, geography, although it's a part of art subject, but it is science. Okay, earth science. So geography is the right answer. Okay, so he uses geography as a symbol of education, isn't it? So that's right answer. Okay, good. Then comes Oh no, it's working. Okay, next comes question number 4.
You think the poet mentions geography?
Or
Which of these
yeah, which of these is the main idea of this stanza? Okay, again the first stanza. Okay, who will answer this? Shivika Gupta. Which of this is the main idea of this stanza? The development of rational thought is a sign of growing up. Loss of faith is inevitable as one grows older. Education hastens the end of childhood. Childhood is transient. Transient means temporary, not permanent. Yes, Shivika, would you like to answer? What is the main idea of this stanza? Yes, Shivika, are you there? Raksha or Varsha? Yes, anybody come up with the answer?
Sir, option A.
Option A, the development of rational thought is a sign of growing. See, a child is, his thoughts are very limited. He has no idea what is right and what is wrong. He has no, reasoning capacity. बोलते हैं ना, like oh, you are just a kid. Okay, you won't understand what we are talking. So so that is the development of rational thought is a sign of growing up. Exactly. So that is the right answer. Okay. So I think that is the end of the MCQ and the last question.
is the main idea of this
See if
stanza?
there is any more.
Read the extract given below.
Okay, there is one more. So this is the third stanza. My mind's really mine. Individuality. So what is the tone of the poet in these lines?
Sad.
Yes, who would like to answer? Varsha.
So B.
Yes, Varsha, what is the tone of the poet? Is he sad, confident, angry, or happy? In the like in confident or
Confident.
angry? Huh? Yes. Yes, Nandini.
Confident.
Confident. When did my childhood was it when I
So
realized my
confident.
mind? Was it when? See, he's confused, not clear. Was it when? Was that the day? Okay, if you particulate this stanza, then he was confident that at this moment I lost my childhood. But throughout the poem, what is the tone
Sad.
of the poet? He's
Sad.
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 Yeah, he's sad that he has lost his childhood. Right, exactly. Okay, so these MCQs are over. So any doubt? Any doubt from the class? Any doubt about this poetry?
No, sir.
Hmm? Anybody has any question? Yes, anybody has any doubt? Yeah, so this the answer was yeah, if this stanza, yes, he's confident that he has lost his childhood. That he is confident that he has lost his childhood, but throughout the poem, the poet is sad. He is lamenting that he has lost his childhood. He is sorry, isn't it? He is feeling sorry because the best moment of his life, the spring of the life, childhood is called the spring season, full of happiness and vibrance. So he's sad that his childhood is gone. So these were the MCQs, and we have some answer based question based on extract. Okay, like when did my childhood go? See, the question is the first line hints at a tinge of the first. It, hints at the tinge of regret felt by the poet. Regret, lament. When did my childhood go? So the poet is sorry that he has lost his childhood. So I will share these questions with you and you do this question answer. Apart from that, anybody has any doubt or question? 11th Commerce A and Math C. Okay, so we can see the answer. The answer is also given. Like if you want to see the answer, uh, the answer to the first question. See, the poet regrets losing out on an innocent and pure childhood. He yearns for all his sweet and old memories, wonders where they could be found now. See, he is nostalgic. He yearns, he wants those memories. Okay. Okay, so that is all for today, class. Uh, any query, any doubt from your side? Then I will wind up the class. Yes, Hanshika, Varsha, any doubt?
What is the meaning of years?
Yearns means a strong desire to want something strongly. Okay. Okay, thank you, class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
bye.